Donald Trump, the felon, has no plans to lower costs for families. He doesn't know how, and basically, he doesn't really care. When did he ever fill up a gas tank or worry about a grocery bill? The only bills he worries about are from his criminal defense lawyers.
Donald Trump thought he could out-talk a Harvard professor. Until Elizabeth Warren showed up with facts sharper than his spray tan line. What started as a routine ego trip turned into a full-on public roast session, and let's just say someone left with more than just a bruised ego. Want to know what Warren dropped that left Trump blinking like a malfunctioning Roomba? Buckle up, because this political showdown makes WrestleMania look like a tea party.
You might have heard that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are taking a chainsaw to your Social Security. So let's talk about it.
So what have Donald Trump and Elon Musk done to Social Security so far?
Donald Trump and Elon Musk are saying 78% of the people they want to fire are the folks working in those field offices to help people across this country when they have a problem. This is Donald Trump and Elon Musk working together as co-presidents to keep people from getting the Social Security benefits that they earned and they were promised.
Donald Trump, the man who thinks running a country is like running a casino just louder and with more golden furniture, finally met his intellectual kryptonite, Elizabeth Warren. Yes, the same Elizabeth Warren who can crunch a Wall Street loophole before breakfast and still have time to wreck a billionaire's afternoon on live television. The moment was less of a confrontation and more of a highly educated speed bump.
Republicans to do their job. We have that power. But Donald Trump is hoping that enough people will be afraid, enough people will just hold it down,
So what caused the implosion of Trump Tower logic this time? It all started, as it usually does, with Trump opening his mouth, flapping his gums, and throwing around nicknames like a playground bully who just discovered Twitter. But this time, instead of ignoring the toddler tantrum in a red tie, Warren decided to respond. Not with insults, but with, brace yourself, actual facts. That's right, she brought research, policy knowledge, and a verbal flamethrower to a tweet fight.
What I'm hearing you say is that no one can hear a rhyme or reason to why the tariffs are off again, on again, off again, on again. But what you're telling us is the fact that hundreds of thousands, even millions of people could lose their jobs and that prices could go up will not be a factor for you or for Donald Trump for rolling those tariffs back. Look,
imagine Trump walking into a debate armed with a magic Sharpie and a 2013 map of his inauguration crowd, only to realize Warren came with a full dossier, a PowerPoint presentation, and 3 government reports color-coded by stupidity level. It was like watching someone show up to a boxing match wearing floaties while their opponent calmly dissected them with a legal scalpel. Beautiful, the terrifying, delicious.
as you've been reporting all day long, every light is flashing red in terms of the economy, and that we really are on the precipice of sliding into a recession and maybe taking it worldwide. Meanwhile, the Secretary of the Treasury is going on Tucker Carlson to talk about all of the workers that Trump and Doge have.
If you're enjoying, please subscribe. But before we get to the main roast, let's rewind. Trump had been lobbing personal digs at Warren again, because nothing says presidential behavior like rehashing 5-year-old playground slurs. And as usual, he thought it would go unanswered. After all, in Trump world, facts are just what you shout over, and apologies are what other people owe you. Except this time, Warren didn't just answer, she set the entire Trump mythology on fire. Warren's response wasn't loud, it wasn't bombastic, it didn't involve random capital letters or 17 exclamation points per sentence. It was calm, it was deliberate. It was the equivalent of handing Trump a mirror and saying, "Here, look at the mess you've made." She started with the economy, which Trump treats like a monopoly board he forgot the rules to halfway through the game. Warren peeled apart his so-called accomplishments one by one, exposing how the only thing Trump ever stimulated was the stock price of gold-plated toilet manufacturers. She brought receipts, literal data, on job losses, wage stagnation, and the fact that the richest 1% got more hugs from his tax plan than the rest of America combined. It wasn't a clapback. It was a spreadsheet-backed execution.
Authority that Donald Trump is using is a declaration of emergency. But the specific law for that says that Congress can pass a resolution and say, no emergency here. And let's face it, realistically, emergency? Really? It was designed for things like we go to...
And then came the business record. Oh yes, the I'm a billionaire, so trust me routine. Warren calmly pointed out that Trump's business empire is basically a haunted house of bankruptcies, lawsuits, and unpaid contractors. You could practically hear the ghost of Trump stakes weeping in the background. She highlighted how the only consistent thing in his business record is how consistently people regret doing business with him. By this point, Trump's face probably looked like someone who just realized he brought a juice box to a wine tasting. But Warren wasn't done. She dove into ethics, or in Trump's case, the lack thereof. She laid out the revolving door of shady associates, legal investigations, and conflicts of interest so numerous they need their own zip code. It wasn't just a confrontation. It was a comprehensive moral audit broadcast in HD. And Trump? He tried to respond the only way he knows how. Vague statements, deflections, and a social media meltdown that read like a 12-year-old's diary entry. He called her names. He questioned her intelligence. He said things so incoherent, even his spell check gave up and filed for resignation. But none of it landed. Because when you're facing someone who actually does their homework, yelling louder just makes you look like you're losing the argument in surround sound.
Toes right on the edge of a constitutional crisis here. But here's the thing. It may be the case that Donald Trump is so full of confidence that he thinks he can wave his wand and whatever he wants to happen will happen. And in many cases, he will be right. For example, the Republicans in the Senate just go ahead and confirm people for jobs that they know they are not qualified for. So they will kowtow to him.
The best part? Warren never once stooped to his level. She didn't throw insults. She didn't rage tweet. She calmly walked through his greatest hits, like a museum curator giving a tour of the world's most embarrassing ego collection. She pointed out how Trump brags about building things, but left behind a trail of unfinished walls, half-empty buildings, and financial carnage that would make Enron blush. But perhaps the most brutal blow came when she laid out how Trump's policies weren't just dumb, they were dangerous. Stripping healthcare like it's a game show prize, gutting environmental protections so fast even the EPA started blinking in Morse code, cozying up to dictators like he's auditioning for a Bond villain reboot. Warren didn't just confront Trump, she exposed the blueprint of chaos masquerading as governance. And the reaction? Oh, it was priceless. Fox News tried their best to spin it as Elizabeth Warren gets unhinged, which in reality was code for she used words we didn't understand. Trump's surrogates tried to change the subject faster than a toddler who's been caught with chocolate on their face. J.D. Vance popped up like a malfunctioning AI, mumbling about the deep state while slowly backing away into irrelevance.
But the real point is, and the United States Supreme Court has said this, if Donald Trump and his henchmen can do this to one citizen from Maryland, they can do it to anyone.
Meanwhile, social media exploded. Memes poured in like confetti at a humiliation parade. One showed Warren holding Trump's policies like expired milk, with the caption, "Smells like failure." Another depicted Trump in a debate with a goldfish. Spoiler alert, the goldfish won. And of course, the trending hashtag, Warren wrecks Trump. A digital monument to intellectual curb stomping. But let's pause and reflect for a moment. This wasn't just a political spat. This was a collision of two ideologies. One based on evidence, education, and empathy, and the other based on ego, fantasy, and branding. Warren didn't just challenge Trump, she dismantled the whole Trump persona, like an IKEA cabinet missing half the screws. The confrontation proved something vital. Trump may have mastered the art of distraction, but he's completely defenseless when someone refuses to play the clown game. Warren didn't dance around the nonsense. She walked through it like a math teacher grading a kindergartner's essay on international trade. Even when Trump tried to pivot, talking about jobs he supposedly created, trade deals he allegedly dominated, or global respect he thinks he commands, Warren met each lie with facts so cold they required gloves. She broke down how manufacturing didn't boom, how the tariffs backfired harder than a clown cannon, and how America's global reputation now ranks somewhere between lukewarm soda and Internet Explorer.
And that means nobody's safe. You speak out, you do something Donald Trump doesn't like, you do something one of Donald Trump's henchmen doesn't like, boom, and you are disappeared. That is truly what dictatorship.
And Trump? Oh, he pivoted all right, into full-blown meltdown mode. Back came the all-caps social media posts full of random quotes, misspelled words, and bizarre phrases that sounded like a Mad Lib written by a guy who just discovered caffeine. At one point, he tried to call her out on integrity, which is like a raccoon lecturing on hygiene. Warren, ever the calm storm, didn't even acknowledge the noise. Instead, she released a short follow-up, another calm, policy-driven statement that essentially said, "I don't have time to argue with someone who thinks the truth is optional." And just like that, she sealed the roast with a bow of dignity. What makes this even sweeter? The long arc. Warren has been the target of Trump's nonsense for years. He's mocked her heritage, her appearance, her intelligence, because that's what insecure men do when faced with a woman who won't back down. And every time she's answered with quiet resolve, until now. This time, she brought the hammer, and it landed directly on the ego. People started calling it a masterclass. Some said it felt like watching a courtroom drama where the defense accidentally confessed. Others compared it to a lion swatting a yapping chihuahua. Even Trump's own allies reportedly urged him to let it go, because continuing the feud was like shadowboxing with a laser pointer.
We're hearing from businesses, small businesses, big businesses. We're hearing from families. Already, businesses are starting to raise prices in anticipation of how to weather this storm, which means costs are going up for families. Small businesses are worried that they're just going to get capsized in this kind of turmoil. And that's the problem that Donald Trump is creating.
But Trump, being Trump, couldn't resist. He doubled down. He held a rally where he tried to revive his old jabs, only to get distracted halfway through and start ranting about water pressure. Then he complained about how unfair the media was for replaying Warren's speech, as if logic itself were now part of the liberal conspiracy. By this point, even his staff looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. One aide was reportedly seen Googling how to fake your own death and flee to Canada. Another quietly whispered, "Remember when we thought this was going to be fun?" Meanwhile, Warren went back to work. No media tour, no gloating, just policy meetings, economic proposals, and doing her job. Which, of course, made Trump look even worse. Because nothing makes a clown seem more ridiculous than being ignored by the grown-up in the room. So, where does this leave us? With a moment of clarity. For years, Trump has survived by shouting over anyone who dares to challenge him. But Elizabeth Warren didn't try to outshout him, she outthought him. She exposed the illusion that behind the gold-plated bravado and red hat rage is a man who crumbles under scrutiny. And that's what made it so satisfying. Not the volume, not the spectacle, but the precision. Like watching someone solve a Rubik's Cube while their opponent struggles to chew gum and walk straight.
Now, I rise today in support of Senator Kaine and Senator Heinrich's resolution to terminate Donald Trump's executive order declaring a national energy emergency. I just want to start by being clear about what's going on here. Donald Trump promised to gut our environmental laws if big oil CEOs gave him $1 billion for his campaign. He was quite open about.
In the end, it wasn't just about Warren confronting Trump. It was about reality confronting fantasy, truth confronting delusion, competence confronting chaos. And the best part? Trump knows it. You could see it in his eyes. The dawning realization that his old tricks don't work on people who actually read the Constitution. Will this be the last time Warren drops the intellectual guillotine on Trump? Probably not. But it will be remembered as the day someone finally called the emperor's tailor and said, yeah, he's not wearing anything. And somewhere, buried under layers of ego and hair product, Trump is still trying to figure out what hit him. If you laughed, cringed, or spit out your drink, go ahead and hit that button. You know which one. And remember, in a world of fake news and loudmouth billionaires, sometimes the most powerful mic drop is facts. And here's where it all clicks, like Trump trying to locate the Constitution in a Big Mac wrapper. This wasn't just Warren dunking on a former president like it was recess and she had the basketball court to herself. No, this was a full circle moment in her long crusade against corruption, fraud, and the financial snake oil salesmen who usually hide behind $5,000 0-cents suits and NDAs. And who better embodies that sleaze in human form than Donald? I've filed for bankruptcy more times than I've read a book. Trump?
Donald Trump's red light, green light tariffs mean higher prices and economic pain for American families. And now it looks like Trump and his buddies could actually be profiting personally off that pain. When the president first announced massive tariffs on virtually every country and every product, he said there would be no exceptions.
See, Warren didn't just come out swinging because it's fun to obliterate fragile egos on live TV, though, let's be honest, it is deeply satisfying. She did it because this moment crystallized everything she's been fighting against since the day she walked into the Senate with a stack of receipts and zero patience for billionaire tantrums. Trump represents the bluster over substance model of politics, where shouting louder counts more than being right. Warren flipped the script: less yelling, more facts; less paranoia, more policy. It was truth in a pantsuit versus delusion in a red tie. And let's just say, one of them left with dignity, and the other left trying to spell indictment without autocorrect. And here's a thought. What if more leaders ditched the cowardly sound bites and brought actual spine to the table? Imagine a Congress where truth doesn't need to scream over conspiracy. Imagine debates where someone doesn't shout fake news every time they're out of ideas. Or brain cells. This wasn't just a mic drop, it was a rallying cry for competence. Because if Elizabeth Warren proved anything, it's that facts still matter, even if you have to shout them over the world's loudest delusion.